So welcome to the Node.js Node API team meeting for May 27th, 2022. We'll follow our standard practice of looking at the things we've tagged for milestone 11. Before we do that, though, does anybody have any announcements they'd like to share? If not, I will share my screen here and let us get started. Where's the right one? There we go. Okay, so the first one is drive towards full coverage. I don't know, Jack, if there's any updates on that front.
Yeah. So I took a look at like your issue about like introducing like that no coverage tool. So I played around with that a little bit and see if we could do this with our Node add-on API.
Yeah. Anything interesting to report on that front, or
nothing
experimenting?
Yeah, I'm just experimenting, but I'm just wondering if this is the right approach to I guess compile with the coverage flag on and then afterwards set up a CI process to run the coverage tool. I think that's how we do in Node for the
Yeah,
Linux,
that sounds right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, we could have like another CI job that basically ran, and
Uh-huh.
even like I think like you know, there was work to push the results to something like coverage.io or one of the external services, just because that's easier to manage than having to manage our own screens and all that kind of stuff. So if that's possible, that's worth looking at.
Cool. Yep.
Okay, sounds good. The next thing is stale issues. So let's just scroll to the bottom there. This one should be resolved, so I don't think there's anything new on there. Let's look here. I think, Vladimir, you were starting to look at that, right?
Yes, I didn't make progress this week on it, but yeah, the plan is actually move this. I have this proxy example as a part of node.js unit test, and the plan is actually move to Node API examples instead. Yeah, I'll do it this week.
Sounds good. Okay.
Nikolai is here, so you may promote him.
Ah, yes, thank you. Let me find participants, pop that out. There we go. Yeah, thanks for letting me know. And this one looks like it's closed. Okay, so we've already got a fix. I may as well just mark that on the, I'm just going to delete that. Okay, so that was all the stale ones that we needed to discuss. Looking at modules that were ported, I don't see anything new there. We can always look at npm node add-on. Looks like no major change, just the slow trend upwards. Right, okay, so back to here. I know I haven't done anything on enabling the debug for testing add-ons. So the last two are looking at issues raised by module owners. So I can open that up, but any ones in particular that people want to have us take a look at to start out with?
Yeah, we discussed last time one of these issues. It was a question mostly how to use typed array, and I have submitted PR today morning about as an example, like this second one in this list.
Sorry, this one? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Oh no.
No, not this one.
Not,
sorry, I may have switched this one.
Yes. So if you scroll to the bottom, I had edit this PR, how to demo how to read a uint 8 array and how to create it.
Right, I think.
Just as a demo, like it's this one is just about bytes, but I can add also about like doubles or like int32 as well.
Okay, so that's good. So just ask for people to go take a look and review and approve that and get it landed.
Mhm.
Okay, I don't know these warnings. Let's see. These actual real.
Okay, I'll fix them.
Okay, yeah, take a look. Thanks.
Mhm.
Okay. That's good. Thanks for working on that. Any other ones people want to sort of call out?
There, another one about this iterator. Kevin submitted also example for this asynchronous iterator, and we also
This one?
team to. No, I
No.
think the next one, number 4 in this list.
Or this one? Okay.
So he asked last time to have a look at his example.
Okay.
Just PR.
Okay, sounds good. So yeah, so if we can go take a look at those. Again, yeah, I'm wondering if these, well, some of these I suspect are possibly warnings on something else because I doubt we added nan. Yeah, okay. We'll have to see if these are, it does say unchanged files. So if that's unrelated, we may want to, all unchanged files. Yeah, okay. Okay. So they may be unrelated, but yeah, okay. So that's a good one to point out that we should get those in. Where's my mouse now? Hold on. There we go. Okay. Just trying to get back now. Okay, I somehow lost it. Any other ones we should take a look at, or? Sounds like some of these most recent PRs came out of the discussions from last time. And then I can see you discuss some of the recent ones and they're covered there. Okay, if nothing that people want to call on that, we can quickly flip over to Node. And we'll just, is that the right label? I never quite find what it is. Okay. There we go. So none of these look too new. So I think this one, is that the only, Nick, was that the only change that was needed there?
Yeah. Yes.
I'm tempted to go and just say, this is stock Node API.
So she need to remove a native version from the docs, and that's it.
Right, so if we just do this, add single comment. So if we committed this, then we think it would be good to go, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna. Okay, making this. Commit that, just seeing if we can, because if that's it, then we might as well go ahead and land it, right?
Yeah.
Although, yeah, okay. So is that the whole change in the end?
Yeah. Because for mistake, someone added the NAPI version on
Yep.
API that is not part of any
Right.
API version. So yeah.
Okay. So. So if you want to just,
Just give me some seconds.
Yeah, if you want to approve it as well, then we can go ahead and land that one. The test will rerun. Good. This one. So this one, I'm just taking a quick look to see. Is this one still waiting? Where is it? So I guess, so Vladimir, from your perspective, you addressed, or sorry, Legendcast, you've addressed all of Gabriel's comments, right?
There is one comment that I haven't updated. That one, Gabriel said it's probably a style change. We just move piece of code up and or down. It's just a need. But I found that since we are exposing we needed to declare the trigger fatal exception afterwards so that we can use it in the places before the definition. So I just moved the function pull up.
Okay, so you're happy that like it's in the form that it should be in based on comments in your interpretation of them, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay. So I think at this point, we've got a couple approvals and nobody complaining. So I think that one we can go ahead and land. It's got all the checks passed. So I'll plan to go back and land that later today, and then that'll unlock the next one. So.
That would be great.
Yeah. We're looking at this one, which will then need a rebase. Any others that we should talk about? I don't see anything else.
It's number 3, like with ref type. I pretty much updated it yesterday, so technically it should be good to go. But I would like you guys to review the names because I'm
right.
Like mentioned last time, definitely kind of names are good and not just.
Okay, so
I just found the name might be a little bit similar in some kind, so I'm having a hard time interpreting them. So a better name probably will be very awesome.
Sorry, I didn't quite follow.
Yeah, I just find the name, the enumeration name is very similar. So I just had a hard time interpreting the meaning of the name. So I will comment in the issue, but it's not a big deal since it's the name is.
Okay, so yeah, let me find your comment.
I didn't have posted.
Oh, you didn't
yet.
comment. Okay.
So yeah, I was just reading the PR before the meeting. So
Okay.
I'll summarize, but it's not a big deal since it's just a naming issue type shed.
Okay, so you'll have a new comment in the issue, and Vladimir's asking for us to take a look, so that fits in well with that.
Okay. It would be nice if, because I feel like it's pretty much, I have documentation, I have tests, I have pretty much, I probably just need to update a little bit description here. I see a little bit outdated, but the rest I feel like it's good to kind of, it's ready to review and
Right.
submit it if needed, if it's okay.
So that is right, number 4256.
Another naming issue I found in the PR from Vladimir in another PR is that it's split finalized into two different types. Yeah, right. Is that I've seen that this PR introduced a series of new functions. Yeah, right. They are named in a way let's say node API wrap and the node API create external, but we have already have this series of API in name like and NAPI wrap or NAPI create external. They are very, I found that they are very similar, and I don't have, I believe we don't have any precedent for such naming. I just found that it might be a hard time for newcomers to the Node API. They might have to distinguish why these two functions are named very similar just for they have different prefixes, but they act differently.
I think if I remember correctly, like don't these extend to give you more capability, and so we might even deprecate the other ones? Correct. I mean, Vladimir, correct me if I'm wrong on that. Like, is it
right? I remember we had the meeting about like probably about 5-6 weeks ago, and I think it's when we discussed about this naming conventions. I believe Gabriel in this meeting as well, and this what he suggested because we extending this APIs with new functionality, and proposal was like let's just because we want to have all new APIs to have this node_API prefix, and suggestion was actually just have exactly the same names as before, just different prefix.
right? And yeah, sure, go ahead.
I was thinking on deprecating the previous one might be very might be good to the answer. I just forgot about deprecating the previous one.
Yes,
right. And maybe we should include that in this PR, and it would make it clearer.
Yeah, it's just suggesting people to use the new one instead of getting confused. We have two similar functions there.
Do we have examples how to deprecate APIs? I don't know. Is there any suggestions?
There is a separate file. So we can take a look at that here. So
because I know we do it in C++ Node API, but I didn't see we do it in node.js.
Like you're right. So, but source. Okay.
You can
right. Okay. So we have, I think that deprecated. Okay. So I thought we had a separate deprecated. So that's maybe in the wrapper that we have the deprecated methods, right?
Yes.
In node.API.
Right. Yeah, maybe we haven't deprecated as much here, but there is a standard deprecation Now that does mean you get like deprecation warnings and stuff as well, but there's the concept of doc deprecated. So I think that's what we would be doing here. And if I look in the doc. Deprecate. It's not going to help me, is it? I don't know if I'm going to find one that's good, but let's see. So somewhere, if we look, maybe I can search maybe locally and find one first.
For each, whenever we have in documentation, whenever we document something, we can say, this is kind of experimental. It's kind of highlights it as experimental. Should we kind of say similar style, saying or deprecated?
Yeah, like there is a standard way to mark something as deprecated. I'm just looking to see if I can find that.
Okay.
I'm just trying to see if I can find something that.
Do we want to have?
Okay.
Do we want to have a compiler warning about deprecated APIs?
Well, there's that, yeah, and that's depending on our like we can do doc deprecations, or we can actually have them so that they throw warnings. I might be more tempted, since we're never going to remove them, just to leave it as a doc deprecation.
Okay.
So let me see, here's URL is one URL.API URL. So let me take a look at there. Oh, come on.
Do you use maybe alternative term like obsolete? I don't know. So that sometimes people use instead of deprecated obsolete. No.
Yeah, no, but we've got a standard way of doing it, so it should be the same. So cluster. Sorry, I'm still looking for a better example. Maybe I need a capital D for deprecated.
Michael, I posted.
Oh, you got a link. Okay.
Maybe it could help.
Right.
Or
right, yeah, that's a good doc. So yeah, so Vladimir, that's the doc that provides some good info about deprecations.
Perfect.
And so like I think what I propose is just documentation only.
I have a question. Now we are adding this new API, like experimental API. So do you want to deprecate now, or when we add this new API to stable node API version? So
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. It's probably that, yeah, we should do that when they become stable versus when they like, because it's sort of like it would be funny to say go use this experimental API instead of the, yeah.
Yeah, we can encourage in the documentation to use this new experimental API, yeah, versus the equivalent that are now considered stable. So this is my point. And then when we promote the new function, like stable API, we can deprecate the old one.
Yeah.
So
You know, maybe to address Shindikest's concern, it's like maybe in the doc, it should say clearly, this is a replacement for this other method. And then we can leave it at that until we actually make them non-experimental, at which point we can mark the other ones as deprecated.
Yeah, documented deprecation is a good start.
Okay, I'll do the same in this now, like an API ref changes pretty much. I think Legendcast's comment was also about with PR, because I do very similar stuff there. Like I have this node API create reference instead of an API create reference.
Okay, so yeah, so like we can basically say these are intended to be replacements,
Mhm.
and then we'll actually do the deprecation once they're no longer experimental.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, sounds good. Let me see if, oh, I'm trying to get back to the list now. Nope. That's one. So any other ones we should touch on? If not, any other topics we should talk about before we close out for this week?
I have just like as usual, a number of different questions about possible new APIs to the Node API.
Sure.
You know, like in some JavaScript engines, like the now we set in property by name or something. People using some people refer like a property ID or a property name, and property name can be either symbol or it can be string. But even if it's a string, this string usually supposed to be unique string. So I wonder if in Node API we need to add some kind of concept about like property name or something like this. Because currently, we get in a setting property, we have two alternatives. We either using an API value, or we're using just kind of string. But we have no methods today to create special an API value which would match to a name. Like, let's say it's more like about having unique strings.
Right. So is the JavaScript name something in the spec itself?
No, as a name, I'm referring to what V8 uses in its API, because name can be either string or, for example, if you set in property, like I think it's a normal JavaScript. We can probably look on JavaScript specification, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So
and see what. So I was setting property, for example.
okay, I don't know why this is slow today, but
I usually just look at whatever Mozilla writes. I didn't look at the real
one. Set property. It's not.
Michael,
Yeah.
you could use the search on top on your left. Top left.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, right. Yeah, okay. Set property. But good.
Yeah, for example, this assignment.
So like assign property.
Yeah, I guess so.
I'm not sure what is the name you are talking, but I can say that there is no a name tag in the spec, but there is a name tag in engines implementation, but they are most likely to be the type aliases for string and symbol. I'm not sure what's the benefit of introducing the name type to the Node API. Would you mind to elaborate on the benefits?
So I was mostly, it's what I've seen in other APIs, like say in Chakra, they used to have some kind of property ID or something like this. And the main idea is that if you have something like property name or property ID type, this can be either symbol or it can be unique string. And today, Node API has no function to create unique string. It's what probably kind of what I'm looking for to
You
function.
can create a unique, you can create a symbol, right?
But symbol is not unique string. Symbol is symbol, string is string, but there is no method to create
what
unique.
do you mean by unique strings?
So unique string is something which internalized by JavaScript engine. So JavaScript engine can simply use pointer to this value rather than comparing strings. So when we set in property and we have property name as a kind of string, normal string would require to have comparison, right? String comparison.
That the problem is that there is no unique string concept in JavaScript. You know, JavaScript code don't have
it's more like
access to the string table of engine internals, and there are engines, JavaScript engine implementations that they don't have a string table in their internals. For what I know, let's say, I need to check it, but they are probably not having a string table in the internals, and like JavaScript. But the problem is that we are exposing the implementation details of the OA JavaScript engine, which the concept is not exposed in the ECMAScript. And that probably might not be a good, but I don't know other people think about it, but it's, we've been talking about the idea in the previous meeting that we would be hesitant about adding new concepts that are not available in the ECMAScript to the Node API.
Yeah, I agree. Our general principle has been, you know, if it's in the spec, then it's a concept that is everybody has to implement. So we're more comfortable. If it's something is an internal implementation, then we've tried to avoid that.
I see.
I can see the use case for the feature. It's very useful and it's very performant. But I mean, if people are very care about the implementation details of the engine, they should go forward with the engine API, and the Node API should keep most compatibility between the engines so that the other implementations could also could also provide a Node API implementation without very hard works to adopting the features they are not providing.
I see your point. So technically, we want to have Node API to be mostly kind of aligned with standard JavaScript and not to be much concerned about maybe some specific JavaScript engine internals.
Yeah, especially when especially the problem is that V8 didn't guarantee the native ABI stable, so they can deprecate features that previous provide, and so if we depend on that features, we may need to change our Node API if we are depending on it. So that's a problem just for Node.js as well.
But I agree with you. But technically, Node API should not be just ECMAScript. So technically, one of the goals of Node API is actually to bridge the gap between JavaScript and native code. So we still need to have some functions, like for example, external object, or being able to wrap up some external buffer or external object, or hopefully external string.
Yeah, I don't think there is a very hard bar between the adding, if we should add new API, but Gabriel have devoted a very hard work on investigating if the Node API is compatible between the outstanding engines. So that's how we decided if a API it should be added to Node API, even if it's not a part of ECMAScript.
So you said Gabriel did some investigation around this area?
Yeah. I have recalled that he has a separate implementation on porting Node API to JavaScript engine, which is an embedded JavaScript engine, and they have implemented a very limited set of features to provide ECMAScript support. So that's a very challenging to implement all our currently Node API features. If that's feasible, then we can say the API can be compatible with most of the engines.
Okay, so technically, it should be okay to be able to add new API if it's implementable on existing JavaScript engines. Is correct?
I'd say there's there's a couple things. One is we want to keep things minimal. So actually, let me find a good doc where we actually captured some of this. Node doc and contributing. This is like adding new, right? So this is what we wrote down as sort of the guiding principles.
Oh, okay.
In terms of adding a new API. So it has to like the shape and spirit. It has to be agnostic to the underlying JavaScript VM. I think it. All right, so this talks about the experimental. I'm just trying to see if it sort of covers the. So it's kind of like the. It must be necessary. So we kind of want, kind of what we want to provide is not like a huge surface area. We want to keep the surface area down to what you need. Be able to be supportable on all VMs. So that's where the kind of like, if it's in the JavaScript spec, we have better confidence that it's going to be supported everywhere, right? Because you have to. And then it gets into that fuzzy, like what's necessary versus unnecessary. If it's it's, and so there's probably some things we have included, which have been like for performance, this really, really helps a lot, right? So we'll consider that versus this is just a nice to have convenience function that cuts down a bit of code. That one we'd probably be like, well, that's more for Node API, Node add-on API, where in that wrapper, we want to do the things that will sort of make it easier for you, easier to do stuff versus in the one that's in the node core. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. Yes.
Yes. So like in this case, is it, I think to advocate for what you're talking about, is there a use case where it makes such a big difference that, it makes sense to consider it? Or is it like, it'd be nice to have it, but if not, things are not really broken, right? Is kind of the consideration.
I see.
Because like, for example, can you get the same performance by just creating symbols?
No, symbols and strings are different, right? Like, so technically it's, you can't replace symbol, you can't replace string with symbol. It's, like
right. So in this case, it's like there's this, it still shows up as a string in.
For JavaScript is a string, but we string in some cases, like for example, in some other JavaScript engines, say in Chakra or like in Hermes, whenever they access in properties, they want to have a unique string effectively. And so this unique string is something which in the end, because they know that's unique, it's special, like a special flag that's unique. So in this case, they don't need to compare, whenever they're setting property or getting properties, they don't need to compare all this by string kind of content. They can just simply compare string pointer. If string pointer effectively matches.
So that's behind the scenes, right?
Yes, yes. Yeah. We somehow need to kind of, in native code, we need somehow to reference this unique concept in what I feel like missing in Node API.
The problem, I guess, is that like sometimes you can be unique and sometimes you can't be. Like, so basically I create a value, I say I want to create a string, right?
Yes.
And behind the scenes in some APIs, you can either create a unique string or a non-unique string, right? If you wrote code and, say there was a flag on create string that said, I'd like this. It's more like can be unique, not versus want it to be unique.
Right.
So like a hint that says like, so go ahead.
In V8, it's called internalized string, so they didn't say it's unique. But I believe there are commonalities in these two features.
Like it's if you wrote code, so I'm just like, if in that create string, if there was a flag that says, unique, and that flag meant this can be unique, but it doesn't have to be. And then the engine did something like, it could say, okay, well, I know this, from the programmer's perspective, this is unique string. If I can create a unique string, I'll do that. Otherwise, I'm just going to create a regular string. Would people write code that wouldn't work on, it's kind of, I guess where I'm going is like a hint that gives the engine more info is okay in my mind, because that's something that says, okay, you can do an optimization, but we're not forcing an optimization, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we don't want to provide something like that then potentially breaks, let people write code that won't work, right? Because it depends on the hint versus not.
Right. So technically saying if some code will depend on that, we have this unique, or like Legend Cast just mentioned, people using internalized string. I think it's something which pretty much string we can use just kind of by using address of the string to compare it with others. And if people can start depend on that, it's whatever it's returning to be supposed to be like unique address. Like, for example, in this case, for example, returned an API value could be used as an entry inside of a hash table, right? So instead of having string inside of your hash table, you can use just address of your API value potentially.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking like, I was thinking more that it would still be like the end user code would still be completely transparent. It just says, I want a string. It gives a hint that says, hey, this is going to be, from my perspective, I won't create another string with the same name. Is that what you're saying?
Right. So
And
technically have it internalized. So technically it's, in some sense, it's supposed to save some space, but it requires more time to locate such string, right? So I think it's what.
Right. I guess I'm just trying to understand, like, is there a hint the end user could give that would let the engine optimize, but wouldn't be a dependency? It's like, just give me, so it'd still be like, give me an API value for a string. And that string may or may not be internalized. The code doesn't need to know, but it could give a hint that sort of says, like, you can make this, you can consider that this string is going to be unique because, from my perspective, I guess, like, a unique string is unique in the whole namespace. Like, I'm never going to create another string with the same set of characters, or what's the?
It's more like, yeah, probably it's not term unique, but it's more like term internalized. Like, technically, we're saying that whenever you're creating this string, please look on a special kind of string table and find a string with the same content and use it. So many JavaScript engines use it for always, say, built-in object properties or built-in object names. So technically, we don't duplicate all these different strings all over the place, but we rather have a special string table for all this unique. I probably, again, I'm using this unique term, but in fact, it's like internalized string.
Yeah, so that does sound like you have to start to know that it's internalized or not in the Node API code, which isn't something that sort of fits with that generic against the engine.
No, it's okay. I just kind of realized that I can implement what I want outside of Node API, as long as we have this kind of new reference type, when we can wrap up any type of object. So if I can build a reference to a string, I could probably achieve it outside of Node API. Maybe. Yeah, in some engines, they do want to have some. V8 does not have such requirement, but some other engines want to have it. Okay, let me think more about it.
Okay.
But I thank you for feedback. I kind of I see your point that we don't want to introduce any APIs which we want to regret about later.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying it.
Okay. Any other topics we should touch on, or? If not, thanks for everybody's time, and we'll talk to everybody later on.
See you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye bye.